black individual will ever make history if they're not born. So, we just have to put things into perspective. They are not a healthcare facility. Just to put things into context, they had 320 visits for STDs, wellness, every other actual medical service, 320. That's less than one per day. But they committed 4,580 abortions, 14 times more than the supposed health care that they provide. Abortion is not health care.
Today, February 1st, 2018, on the west side of Cleveland, Ohio, activists and the faith-based community held a response to the 16 billboards that are currently up in Cleveland's predominantly black neighborhoods. The billboards support and advocate abortion. Here were some of their thoughts.
I think it's imperative that we look at every single issue where we can close the door, as far as I'm concerned, that the enemy keeps trying to open.
When we have communities that are already ravaged with violence and death, the last thing we need is more death.
Financial. Abortion is not a form of birth control. It is a form of birth removal.
When you compare abortion to pulling a tooth, you know that there's something disconnected in the minds of those who push abortion.
A young lady from Kent that was up at preterm, and she talked to our workers that were out front on her way out. She didn't have an abortion. She was thinking about it. Well, she called me as she was getting in her car at preterm, and I met her. We were standing in front of Planned Parenthood in Canton that day. She did not have an abortion. Amen. But how evil preterm is, they would not even give her money back.
Wow.
And she was just making payments. She was just up to about $280.
That's why Planned Parenthood spends millions of dollars fighting every single women's right to know bill in every state across the country.
But I don't know how many of you heard of Lakeisha Wilson.
Yeah.
Lakeisha Wilson was a young African-American young lady. Was it 2 years ago in March? 3 years ago, she died she died at preterm. But they kept her alive so they could harvest her organs. They probably settled with her mother in Columbus and that, and so we will never hear what really happened. But I was standing in front of preterm, and one of the workers I had her sign, one of the workers there, unfortunately African American, she said, "Well, did you know her?" And I said, "Yes." And when she said, "Do you know how she died?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, she had a heart attack." And so what they try to do is they try to shift the blame on the women. And I was so mad that day.
You hear all the time, patriarchy, patriarchy. Well, most abortionists are male. Isn't that a patriarchal thing? And at preterm, they have two abortionists who are male, who get paid $500,000 a year to abort disproportionately black babies. Abortion is systemic racism. Like, how do you reduce infant mortality? By injecting more death. How does that work?
Truth is dreams start in the womb. Purpose and potential starts in the womb.
That's right.
We will not allow our voices and the voices of the unborn to be silenced.
I know about adversity. I was adopted in a family of 15. 10 kids in our family were adopted. 9 of my siblings were also adopted, which is why my shirt says, "Adoption unleashes purpose." It is a beautiful option. It restores what was broken, and we're dealing with brokenness. The advertising of abortion as if it's a necessary good is brokenness.
In that time, when we first arrived here, African Americans was the largest minority in the country. As a result of abortion in the African American community, it is no longer that way.
That's right.
We have to recognize that the Planned Parenthood, that the abortion industry is targeting African Americans as part of the eugenics program that was set in place, as Ryan said, by Margaret Sanger. She was one of the first really strong eugenicists and then formed Planned Parenthood. There is no mistake that African Americans are being targeted by the abortion industry. When you consider the fact that the organization that we're talking about, Preterm, that has put up these horrible billboards, makes a profit of $4 million a year.
with billboards that said abortion is sacred, abortion is a blessing, abortion is necessary, abortion is gender equality, abortion is a family value. The black community is more targeted by the abortion industry than any other demographic. In fact, in the home of Planned Parenthood, where it was birthed in New York City, more black babies are aborted than born alive. For every 1,000 born alive, 1,101 are aborted. 44% of all abortions are among African Americans. And why is that? It's not by chance, it's not by accident, it's by design.
Ohio has the sad distinction of having one of the highest rates of infant mortality in our country. In Akron and in Cleveland, there are several zip codes in primarily black neighborhoods that have the highest infant mortality rates in the state. That those same zip codes have high abortion numbers. Make note of this. It is a medical fact that abortion can increase the risk of premature birth in future pregnancies because of the potential for damage to the cervix when it is forced open during a surgical abortion. And prematurity is a leading cause of infant mortality. In our country, black women comprise 12.5% of the female population, yet have roughly 39% of the abortions.
Why can't you put up, we offer condoms, free condoms. Why can't you help them before they get to before they get there? Right. Before they get to the issue of abortion. Right. Why can't you help them first?
From the colonial era through the American Revolution, ideals about African Americans were variously used in propaganda. Then it was about slavery. Today it's about compulsory sterilization, also known as forced or coerced sterilization, a form of systematically picking off our African American babies one at a time before they get out of the womb. Right. A practice that is used to restrain the reproduction cycle of a people while at the same time capitalizing financially.
We also sat with the board of preterm, the executive board, and one thing that we stressed is that we did not want these billboards up for Black History Month. Right. They promised us that they would change them, and I don't think they have. But like I told them at that table, if you don't do something about it, it's going to get worse. That's right. Because I got an army behind me, and we don't stop.